Hello and welcome to another wrap-up. It feels so weird that it's already halfway through the year. Why is time passing so fast? I don't know, but it feels really weird. My mom the other day gave me a reality check because I saw a video of somebody saying class of 2027 and that just made me feel violently ill. And my mom said, oh, that's only 4 years from now. It's not that long. So yeah, that was a reality check that I had. Thank you, mother, for that. Moving on, because that was irrelevant to this video. In May, I read 16 books. Yeah. I had a good reading month. I only read one bad book. I read a new favorite, a really good book. So yeah, let's get into my review of each one. So the first book that I read in May was Renegades. I technically read 90% of it in April, but I didn't finish it, and it was for a magical readathon, so I finished it on the first day of May. So I finished it in May. If you've never heard of this, this is about a group of superheroes and a group of supervillains that are basically fighting with each other in this not post-apocalyptic, but futuristic world where the government was overthrown, and so the superheroes decided that they are gonna control the villains running around, and everyone has special abilities. I hope that made sense, because that's the way I'm gonna explain it. And we follow two characters, Nova, who is one of the villains, and Adrian, who is one of the heroes. And basically Nova wants to not kill, but basically abolish the heroes, which are called Renegades, hence the name. But to do that, she decides to infiltrate and become a renegade, and that's the plot of this book. I took way too long to read this book in general. I put it off because I was scared I wasn't gonna like it, which I guess at the end of the day had a little bit of a gut feeling instinct to it, because I ended up giving it a 4, not a 5, so it wasn't a new favorite, but it's okay. I really enjoyed this. This was so fun, great book, but it is so predictable that I had to deduct a point. The ending was the most predictable of all, which really bothered me, because I hate endings in general, as a rule, and add predictability to it, then it's even worse for me. So yeah, that's why I had to deduct a point. Everything else was great. The world building is super cool. I love each of the powers that every character has. I even wrote down a whole list of characters and their powers, because I'm obsessed and OCD about it. I don't know why. It was a good book, but it was very predictable. The next book that I read was an ARC that I got from NetGalley that is called The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. If you've never heard of this book or this author, she previously wrote one of my favorite what's it called? Guilty pleasure books, which is the Geekarella or Once Upon a Con series. So when I got this and asked for it, I was really excited. It is about this woman who lives in an apartment that used to be her late aunt's, and her aunt, when she was alive, she said that the apartment was magical. And that it can teleport you in time. So one day she arrives home and the house is different and there's a man in there. And basically she's time traveled 7 years in the past and met this guy called Ivan? It's irrelevant what his name is, I can't remember what it is. And basically that's the plot, I guess. I don't really know how to explain it without spoiling it, so I'm gonna keep it vague. It's about a woman that time travels 7 years in the past and meets a guy. Cool. The plot of the book had potential, but it just didn't give it. This book was very predictable. Do we see a trend? A little bit. Super predictable. Every plot twist, every thing is predictable. You could literally write this by reading the first chapter and then trying to write a book after it. It would probably be very similar if you went by the basic plot lines that you know. I hope that made sense. Yeah, so that was the major no for me, was that the plot was, it had potential, but then it was really predictable and not the tea. And also the romance was okay. it was a little bit insta-lovey because they do meet each other and like immediately like each other. And they like hang out for 2 days and then they're in love with each other, which I don't like. And I think everyone in the bookish community agrees with me that that's not what we like. But yeah, it was cute, but like it needed a little bit more. I give it a 3-star. I didn't mention it, but I always leave it on the screen, so. The next book that I read was one that I was really excited to read, and it was Terms and Conditions by Lauren Asher, which is the second book in the Dreamland Billionaires series. I always call it Dreamland Boyfriends or Billionaire Boyfriends. It's always wrong. In this book, we follow Declan. He gets a letter from a grandfather that died that in order to be CEO and get his inheritance, he needs to get married and have a child. That's like the condition. At the same time, we follow Iris, his assistant, who after some mishap decides to be his fake wife. We already know where this is gonna go. We already love it. We already live. I gave this a 5-star. This was just everything I needed, wanted, expected, everything. Was it maybe predictable? I guess, but also I did not care this time. With the other 2 books, I did. This was just great. I don't know how to explain books that I like because I never have anything to say except it's amazing. But this was so fun. The smut, great. The plot, amazing. The characters, beautiful. Their tension, oh my god. Just everything is great about this. I highly recommend this series. Yes, it came from TikTok, but for once it wasn't the weirdest shit I've ever read, you know? Next, I read another contemporary romance book, which is Foolish Hearts by Emma Mills. I originally heard of this from Books and Lala. I don't remember what exact video, but just I remember her talking about this, and another book by this author that's called First and Then, which is also on my TBR for one day. In this book, we follow Claudia. She overhears 2 girls breaking up with each other, and one of the girls is like known to be angsty and just hates everyone. So she immediately like, there's animosity between them. So the next week is like the first week of school and they get paired together in like a school assignment, which obviously goes wrong because they don't talk to each other. So in order to like make up for their really bad essay, they have to do extra credit, which is to participate in a play of A Midsummer Night's Dream by Shakespeare. I ended up giving this a 4.5. I would never have expected it, but it was just great. Claudia was a great character. The romance, super cute, but there was a moment that really annoyed me, so that's why it's a 0.5. But like, it's so good. If you like basically anything, you're gonna like this. They talk about fandoms, K-pop stans, just everything you can like probably relate with. This is so good. I was not expecting it to be so good. I love that I got surprised, honestly, because I haven't had that in a long time. I don't know how to explain books that I like, as I said. This was great. The only problem was the slight, I guess, misunderstanding trope vibe thing, but whatever. The next book that I read was another arc from NetGalley that is a manga. It is called Love That's an Understatement. I don't remember who the author is, but I will always leave it on the screen. This follows a girl who one day stumbles upon a delinquent who's like been beaten up. And so he's in the rain, like miserable and bleeding. So she helps him, gives him like an address for a hospital because he doesn't want help. And after that, the guy basically gets obsessed with her and is like, since you saved my life, very dramatic, I will be your savior, just call me and I will come help you. And there's a lot of drama because she is dealing with him and he's like the gang leader of one of the gangs. So yeah, that's the plot, I think. I gave it a 5-star. It was just entertaining, great. They kiss in the first volume. Thank you. Yeah, it was just really fun, entertaining, cute, short little manga. Hopefully I will remember to continue it because I am in the middle of so much Next, I read 10 volumes of another manga series, so I read the whole thing. I'm not in the middle of it. Good. Yay me. And it is called Happy Marriage, which honestly, I was just on the internet and I searched completed manga series that are romance, and that came up. It was very random. It was just like, whatever. It was, I don't even know how to explain it. The plot of the book is there's this girl and this like CEO man, main characters. Miss Thing has a lot of debt. She's in debt because her dad makes constant like shit business deals with shady men. And the CEO has a grandfather that wants grandchildren, basically. So the grandfather makes them marry each other because the grandfather had like something with her grandmother. I don't even know. So they get married to each other as a contract because the grandfather will be happy and her debt will be paid. That's the contract. And as you already expect, they fall in love with each other and then a lot of shit happens. The first few volumes, cute, I guess, very average. But then he randomly slaps her and I just got a little bit like, he randomly slaps her out of nowhere and says nothing and she's like, I'm so sorry. I don't know, it just felt weird. There's a lot of like questionable stuff in manga usually, but that was just like too weird. That was the only thing that was weird. Other than that, my complaints, because I did give the whole thing in general a 3, it was just, I don't know. I also felt like it was missing like an epilogue or something because it ended off in a way that I would have preferred a little bit more. I give this series like a 3 or a 3.5. I think I'm gonna stick to a 3. It was just okay. I wouldn't personally recommend it. There's other better romance things, manga, that exist. And the last book that I read was another arc called New Adult by Timothy, I think it's like Janowski or something. Again, it's on the screen somewhere. This is about, it's basically a 13 going on 30 retelling, if you know that movie. Our main character, Nolan, he wants to be a comedian really bad. He has gigs now and then where he works, but like he's not famous or anything, obviously. So he has a 7-year plan that in 7 years he wants to be successful, a well-known comedian, blah blah blah. At the same time, Nolan lives with his best friend, Drew, and he is in love with Drew, but he feels like he has to be successful to be with Drew, if that makes sense. So a lot goes on. He has a falling out with everyone in his life, and he falls asleep one day and wakes up 7 years in the future. And there he is successful, a comedian, famous, everyone knows his name, but his family doesn't speak to him, and Drew has completely like stopped talking to him. That sounded very promising, right? Probably, maybe if you like the movie like I do, you would be intrigued. Hold your horses, because no. I gave this a 2-star. It was not disappointing, because did I have high expectations? Not really. Because I read the first chapter and I already had a feeling, because my god. To get through the first 100 pages of the book was absolute torture. That nearly put me in a reading slump, but since I'm very stubborn, it didn't. Nolan was a very, very grating character to read about. If you hate like unlikable characters, would not recommend this. He does a lot of like questionable, dumb decisions during the first third of the book. When he finally goes 7 years in the future, then it gets better, but like comparing to what was before, anything would have been better. He also has like a character arc in the like first day he is in the future, which doesn't make sense to me based on the first 100 pages of his like behavior. He randomly like, epiphany, I'm stupid. I don't think it would work like that, but whatever, that's just a me thing. Also, the romance was meh. And finally, my last complaint, this book is so unfunny for being about a comedian. He told like a stupid rat joke twice. No, I can be funnier and I'm not a comedian. My rant is over. If you're new here, hi. At the beginning of the year, I told myself I wanted to read my 170 physical books, yet I read 3 physical books this month. I need to stop. So yeah, those are all the books that I read in May. I need to like kind of step up my game since I need to still read a lot of books on my physical TBR, so hopefully I actually do that because we are halfway through the year now. Happy Pride! I hope everyone is living their best life, and that is everything for today, and I'll see you in my next weird video. Bye!